Welcome to The Explainer. In just the next few minutes, I'm going to show you a powerful scientific principle that can help you study less but actually remember more.
So let's start with the problem I think we've all had. You sit down with your books, you're all ready to learn, but pretty soon you're feeling tired, your mind starts wandering, and you just can't seem to focus. Sound familiar?
If you've ever felt any of these things, you're definitely not alone. But here's the interesting part. Feeling sleepy or bored or daydreaming, it's not a sign that you're lazy. It's actually a signal from your brain that it's not being challenged in the right way.
And the solution to this whole problem comes down to a really cool concept from learning science called cognitive load theory. Seriously, getting your head around this one idea can completely change how you study. So what exactly is cognitive load? Well, in the simplest terms, it's just how hard your brain is working on something. If a task is easy, the cognitive load is low. If it's tough and needs a ton of focus, the cognitive load is high. Makes sense, right?
And I love this gym analogy because it's just so perfect. Think about it. If you go to the gym and lift a weight that's way too light for you, you're not going to build any muscle. Your brain works the exact same way. If you're not using enough cognitive load, you're not really learning or building those important new mental connections.
And this all goes back to our evolution, really. Our ancestors had to learn stuff like how to make a fire or hunt because it was crucial for survival. So, high-effort tasks signal to our brain, hey, pay attention, this is important. By making studying harder, you're kind of tricking your brain into treating that information like a vital survival skill.
Okay, so this brings us to two very different ways you can study, and it's all based on how much cognitive load they require. Passive methods versus active methods.
All right, let's talk about the low-load traps first. These are the passive study habits that, let's be honest, most of us use. Things like just rereading your notes, or rewriting them word for word, or clicking through lecture slides again. These tasks are easy, they have a really low cognitive load, and that is precisely why you end up feeling bored and sleepy. Your brain just isn't being activated. But on the other side, we have the high-load boosters. These are active methods that force your brain to actually engage. We're talking about things like practice questions, past papers, and a cool technique called nonlinear note-taking. These methods demand focus and mental effort, and that's exactly what you need for effective learning.
So let's dig into 3 of these high-load methods you can start using in your very next study session.
First up, practice questions. Instead of just reading a whole chapter from beginning to end, try this. Read about a concept, then stop and immediately try to solve a problem related to it. This constant switching back and forth forces your brain to actively apply what you just read, which keeps your focus sharp and your cognitive load nice and high.
Okay, once you've covered most of your course material, past papers are an absolute game changer. They use a technique called interleaving, which is just a fancy way of saying they mix up questions from all different topics. This makes your brain constantly switch gears, creating something scientists call desirable difficulty. And yeah, it's harder, but that's exactly why it works so well.
The third method really gets to the heart of this idea right here. See, real learning isn't just about copying words onto a page. It's about building connections inside your head.
This is how most of us take notes, right? Just a straight line, one point after another. We're basically just writing down what we see or hear. The problem is, this takes almost no effort. It's a very low cognitive load task. It doesn't force you to actually think.
Now, nonlinear note-taking is totally different. Instead of a list, you're creating a kind of mind map. You put the main idea in the middle, and then you draw out branches and arrows to show how everything is connected. This forces your brain to think about the relationships between ideas, creating a much higher cognitive load and, you guessed it, much better learning.
So let's wrap this all up into a simple, straightforward action plan.
We've all heard this phrase, but now, thanks to cognitive load theory, we know it's actually true. Boredom isn't some character flaw. It's a symptom. It's a big, flashing signal that your cognitive load is way too low, and you need to switch to a more active, more challenging way of studying.
So here's your plan. It's just 3 simple steps. First, recognize when you're feeling bored or sleepy. Second, the moment you catch yourself, just stop and switch to an active method like practice questions or mind mapping. And third, embrace that feeling of desirable difficulty. Remember, the effort is what makes the learning stick.
Making even one small change can have a huge impact on how well you learn. So think about those low-load traps. Rereading, rewriting, just flipping through slides. Which one are you going to swap out for a high-load booster in your next study session?